I'd like to call the October 28th meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order. And I'd also like to announce that this meeting is being recorded and ask if there's anyone in the audience who is also recording this meeting. Seeing none, if we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item we have is public comment, and we have Ellen Gabry, the town clerk, here. Good evening.
Good evening. I am very pleased to announce that the 2013 recipient of the John E. and Ethel E. Riley Outstanding Citizenship Award is Robert Bro. He's volunteered on numerous functions for Auburn, including the Senior Center and the Historical Society. So I'm very pleased to be able to present that to you this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ellen. Great choice. And we have Darlene Coyle. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. Darlene Coyle with the Board of Health. I just wanted to inform the board we do have a public flu clinic coming up this Saturday. As you recall, I was here last time for our senior clinic. We had a great turnout for that. We vaccinated over 100 seniors, and this Saturday we're looking to, we expect a good turnout for this as well. We're vaccinating early in the season. This is going to be open to the Auburn residents, general public. It's going to be for ages 10 and up. It is a free clinic. We encourage all those to get vaccinated, and it's going to be held at the Senior Center from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. Again, that's this Saturday, November 2nd, from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. We'll be having the flu clinic at the Senior Center, and that is something we hope is well attended. In years past, this is a big clinic for Auburn. I know in years past we vaccinated, several hundred people, so we're hoping for the same. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Jacobson?
Yes, Darlene, if you could stay there for 1 minute, if I may. I just, through the chair, I just wanted to let the board know that Darlene Coyle, effective today, will be the Director of Public Health, taking Andy Pelletier's position. He, as you know, went to another community, and his last day was Friday, so effective today, Darlene is the new Director of Public Health. She's been here for a couple of years just recently, but obviously has more than 10 years experience. I know we brought her in when she was brought in as the health inspector, her previous position, and assistant to the director. And I know she's going to do a great job. She's in the Department of Development and Inspectional Services, reporting to the department head in that position, in that department, who is Adam Burney, working with a great team, and she's been here now, I think, almost 2 years now, most recently, and then had been here previous to that, and has, again, about 10 years experience, including being the Director of Public Health in the town of Leicester, and then the head of the Regional Public Health Initiative through the city of Worcester in a contingency of about 4 or 5 communities. So I just wanted to let you know she would be the one to go to in Andy's now absence, and any questions can be still referred to that office as always, and Darlene will be the one responding. So thank you for taking it on, and congratulations.
Thank you very much. I look forward to continuing the programs that Andy started and bringing new public health programs as we move forward. I appreciate the vote of confidence. I enjoy very much being here. Thank you very much.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Congratulations, Darlene.
Our next item is presentations, and we have 2 presentations on the medical marijuana facilities. You were given out a handout from the chief prior to this meeting, and then an additional handout from Commonwealth Patient Center. I understand that we haven't had the opportunity to look at these, but they are part of the record. And I will remind you when you come up that when you were put on our agenda tonight, we asked you to please keep your presentations to 5 to 7 minutes, and that will be allowed for your presentation. If there are questions or comments that won't be considered part of your 5 to 7 minutes. So the first on the agenda is Commonwealth Patient Center. If you could come up to the microphone, please identify yourselves and give your name and address for the record.
This is for the second group.
Okay.
Good evening. Anthony Parinello, President of Commonwealth Patient Center. Reside at 52.
I'm just going to ask you to repeat your name. I didn't hear you.
Anthony Parinello,
Anthony Parinello.
President of Commonwealth Patient Center.
Okay.
And I reside at 52 Whispering Way in Stowe, Massachusetts.
Okay.
Thanks for having us on the agenda tonight. Dennis, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, thanks for the invite tonight. My name is Dennis DiPaolo. I'm currently a resident of Leverett, 140 Long Plain Road, Leverett, Massachusetts.
Thank you.
Welcome.
You may begin.
Dennis and I are two of the founding partners of Commonwealth Patient Center. Our third is a physician partner, and he's on call tonight, so he was unable to attend. Dennis is also a PhD student in his third year out at UMass Amherst. That's why he lives out in Leverett. I just handed out a brief two-page memorandum outlining who we are, our programmatic goals as an entity in this space. Spoke a little bit about the space that we're interested in securing to lease, and then some professional bio on myself, Dennis, and our third partner, Noah. We are simply interested in getting into this space to provide patient-centered care in a high-quality manner. And you've probably been reading a lot about this, and it sounds so vanilla and generic. If you brush away all the stuff you've been reading in the papers and you get down to brass tacks with us, our goal is to deliver new medicine that is based on specific symptoms. You probably heard like kind of targeted therapeutics, right? For cancer, or if you get your DNA or the 23andMe, you can kind of understand like your predisposition to various ailments. Well, we want to create medicine that specifically targets those ailments. So for example, if you were afflicted with Crohn's disease, we could make a strain that would relieve the inflammation, but then wouldn't trigger what's known to be as the munchies in this space, which is pretty different than I think what a lot of other teams are going after. We're not really super big fancy guys. We've got a pretty serious board filled with physicians, international researchers, and Dennis as our chief scientific officer. He'll be leading our initiatives and our plans to create strains that, and it takes time to do this because all you're doing is crossbreeding. Like if anyone's a gardener, you're just crossbreeding plants. It takes time to achieve those types of strains, but it can be done. And that's our goal. And we'd like Auburn to be the home of our cultivation facility. When I met, along with Dennis and a few other of our team members a few weeks ago with Adam and Julie, we had originally talked about having retail and a cultivation center here at 101 Millbury Street. Marty Reisner is the landlord. He's in full support of our use. And since then, this space is so dynamic, we decided to not do our retail there. We thought it might be a better fit with the chief, respectfully shared his thoughts, and we thought perhaps going just on just out of the cultivation facility would perhaps blend in more with, or be more acceptable. So our thought is to have our cultivation facility here and do retail elsewhere. And perhaps that would decrease some of the concerns that he expressed in our October 15th meeting. Do you want to speak about some of our scientific goals a little bit more.
Sure. Hello again, and thank you. First of all, one of the reasons that we're interested in starting this operation in Auburn is because of the image and the safety that Auburn promotes. It's pretty well known throughout central Massachusetts that Auburn is really a beautiful town. You have great people running this town, very responsible chief of police that we have previously met with and has told us and shared his concerns with us for an industry like this coming into your town. There's a large stigma against it, and our team also supports that positive image as well. We're all hardworking folks. As Anthony said, I'm in my PhD program in plant biology. I study biosynthesis of secondary metabolites, and that's why I'm interested in getting into this field. I think cannabis in general has a bad image. It's been bred underground for years for high THC content, which is the major psychoactive compound in the plant. But recently, studies have shown that there are over 66 other cannabinoids within the plant that may have medicinal value, and we're just starting to parse those apart now. One that you might have heard about in the news is cannabidiol, also known as CBD. It has anti-inflammatory properties as well as anti-convulsive properties, and it's actually being used right now across the country. It's been given to children, actually, aged 4, 5, and 6 years old, and it's relatively safe, so safe that the FDA just allowed new studies to be done on CBG, which is pretty huge because that's the federal government. I would like to promote the sciences of cannabis and just kind of uncover what else can be done with this plant. All the evidence out there is very anecdotal right now. And I believe as states come on and start supporting medical marijuana, that we can kind of parse apart this plant and its compounds and extract them and use them for their medicinal benefits. And that's kind of where I come from. I study genetics and molecular biology, and I'm very interested in plant breeding for these lesser cannabinoids. And I think that can be done. The reason we want to come to Auburn is because of the image. We feel that the image of our company relates to the image of Auburn, and we want to uphold that image, not just for the cannabis industry, but also the town of Auburn. And that's why we're interested in Auburn. So thank you.
Thank you. So if you could just please give us a few specifics on your proposal for the 101 Millbury site, just to give us a little more information on what your intention is, what your facility would be like, how it would be secured, give us a little better description of your actual operation.
Sure. So are you familiar with that space?
We are. It's the old Filene's building. Everyone familiar with that one? Yes.
No, that's a different.
I'm sorry, the building next to it. The building next to it.
This is,
Right.
For the next building down, with all the
Loading docks.
loading docks. Thank you. My husband's a truck driver. Loading
So
docks.
it's approximately 18,000 square feet, and I was actually told it was an old FedEx hub, but I could be wrong. Was it not? No? Okay. Anyhow, so the front part's kind of like a glass entryway, right? And then it's kind of like office space, and then that leads to the warehouse facility in the back. So relative to security, the state, certainly we would meet at a minimum the state requirement, which is 2 security systems, independent security systems with 24-hour, surveillance, camera surveillance. And then that would also be, outsourced to an agency to monitor activity in the hours that we're not operating. So the perimeter would be secure. We would have, I'm not sure if we're going to do biometric, but certainly at a minimum access cards, right, with identifications of myself. So each of you would have your own unique card, and then therefore we would be able to understand who's coming, to and from the building. So, what else do you want to know?
Do any members have any questions on the
mean, it's
proposed
gonna be-
operation? Mr. Holstrom?
Yeah, through the chair, in your handout here tonight, it says it's a corporation formed in Massachusetts for the purpose of providing safe access to quality medical marijuana for qualified patients, and you want to cultivate medical marijuana. But also down below, you said programmatically, your main goal is to establish medications that target specific symptomatology. It sounds like you want to expand not only your portion of the marijuana growth, you want to do other medications also? Is that what I'm gathering from this?
No, our venture is solely centered on this use, but as I was alluding to before, we want to, we're staying in this space. The only medicine would be medicinal marijuana.
Thank you.
Yeah, but I think Dennis could elaborate a bit.
Yeah, the thing that we're leading to there is we want to use not just the whole plant, but we want to use extracts from the plant as medicines. And like I was touching on before, there's 66 known cannabinoids within this plant, and they're produced in varying levels within the plant. So if you use just the flowers of the plant as a medicine to smoke, you're kind of hitting yourself with 66 different cannabinoids and terpenes like beta-caryophyllene, which interacts with the CB2 receptor. And they're all interacting with at least 5 different receptors in your body at once, giving different effects. That's if you smoke the whole plant. If we can produce plants that produce specific cannabinoids through specific breeding, and then we can use those plants to produce extracts like a high CBD extract, low THC. It's not, they kind of have different effects and therefore different symptoms, if you know what I mean. So like if you give someone a pill that's high in THC, you know, it's going to have that psychoactive effect, but it's going to stimulate hunger and stuff, which would be good for a variety of conditions, but that's not good for everyone. Some people still need to take their medication that will relieve pain, but not have that psychoactive effect, so they can still function at work. And that's where cannabidiol would come into effect, where it has pain relief properties, but it doesn't have psychoactive properties. So that's kind of where I'm going at with that.
Thank you.
Are there other questions? Can you just tell me if you've thought this far in advance, your hours of operation and what type of background checks you would be doing for employees?
Right. So we would certainly do, so hours of operation for the cultivation facility would be, we were thinking preliminarily, but again, we'd want, we didn't get that type of feedback from the chief at our meeting. We were looking for some feedback there, but we were thinking 8 to probably 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening in terms of the manufacturing.
Okay. And what about background checks for employees?
Background checks we'll be doing, we'll ask for Corey, reports and credit checks.
Okay.
We'd hire we've retained a private security firm to also assist with, interviews. If we thought a candidate was worthy to perform the job on a functional basis, we would then have that candidate interviewed and screened privately by a private security contractor, and not the one the feds use.
Okay. Mr. Simonian?
Yeah, so I just wanted to, so you would only use this facility for growing it, and then you would transport it somewhere else
Correct.
for selling?
For retail, correct.
So then I guess you would really have no interaction with the public
At this facility, no.
at this facility?
No.
Okay.
Chief, did you want to speak now or wait till the end of the presentations? Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Great.
No, I
Thank
don't
you.
think we have no.
One-
Mr.
other thing,
Grossman has a question.
Would spot checks be done of employees periodically to check to see if they are under influence?
If they're under the influence, yes, we would have drug testing at our facility.
If there's nothing else from any board members, we'll move on to the next presentation. Thank you so much. You're welcome to stay because the chief is going to comment after both presentations.
Would we then be allowed to speak again, or this is their only time?
If there's a specific concern
Want to
that the chief raises that you
Yeah.
feel you need to address, yes.
I would just make one other comment to say, I think it's important, this space, the DPH is moving very quickly here, which is a good thing because they're keeping their word, and they've actually done it in a very professional manner. Unfortunately, many municipalities just haven't, in many cases, they're caught by surprise with some of the DPH, how fast and efficient the DPH is moving. I just think it's important, we live this stuff. We've been living this stuff for a long time, and our knowledge is pretty deep. But if you take something like, if you haven't read it, Sanjay Gupta, everyone knows Sanjay Gupta. He's kind of like the de facto, Surgeon General. He came out with a letter about 5 weeks ago where he actually, in an open letter, it's on the website. If you just Googled Sanjay Gupta, medical marijuana, he spoke and he basically apologized to the public to say that he got it wrong relative to the use of marijuana. And I think for the kind of, in a sense, a layman, right? Because we live this stuff. These guys are this is all we read and talk about. But for the average kind of American, I think many people, what we found in our travels, are very uninformed about it. So if you feel that you could do a little bit extra reading on the topic, I would strongly suggest you read that letter and even watch the video. Because Dennis spoke about there's a documentary that he did, and he focuses on this one girl, Charlotte, who's 2 years old, and for quite some time, like a year or so, she had these uncontrollable seizures, and her parents were at their wits' end in terms of how to treat it. Well, ultimately, they went to medicinal marijuana, and her seizures went from 200 to 300 a week to 2 to 3 a month. So it's pretty staggering, and it's quite eye-opening. So I would just urge you to, as you guys continue your research process in this whole, process, to look at that sort of information that's available to you. And ultimately, my last point is, we would certainly love a letter of support, but if you guys weren't comfortable making that letter of support for us to operate at 101 Millbury Street, then I would love a letter of non-opposition. Thank you.
Mr. Simonian did have one last question.
I do have one more question. So, as you said, I didn't know a lot about the subject, and I tried to talk to a few people to get some background information, and two of the people that I talked to were my doctor and my children's pediatrician, and so my question is this, because you spoke about the different things that could possibly be treated with the different parts of the plant.
Yep.
And some of the research that you think will be done and so forth. But at the same time, I'm sure you're aware there's, and I don't know if it's a large part, but there is part of the medical community that feels that most of the things that could be possibly treated with medical marijuana, there's some existing medication that treats those things anyway, and their feeling is it's not necessary. So how would you answer that, and,
Sure.
and how would you respond to that part of the medical community?
I'll give you kind of the human interest side, and then Dennis can speak to the
Sure.
technical side. But at the Worcester, the DPH sponsored these listening sessions, and the first one was in Worcester back in like early February. I don't remember the exact date. And there was a patient there that spoke about this, and this is of all the patients that spoke that day, maybe there was a dozen or 16 or so. This woman was a breast cancer survivor, a mom, and she's a physician licensed here in the state of Massachusetts. And she spoke about her use of Marinol for the anti-nausea relative to her chemotherapy treatments, and simply it just didn't work. So her doctor said, "I can't help you get this, but my suggestion would be go find someone and obtain some marijuana." And I'm sure this is like on public record. You probably go out and find this video. And it was a very moving testimony. And personally, for me, I was really swayed by that. Because here you are, a licensed physician in the state, trained, I'm sure, just like the physicians you spoke to, and had a completely different experience. And what she spoke about was in her treatment, when she switched over to regular, because it's synthetic, real marijuana, it allowed her to eat and get some meat back on her bones, right? And it also allowed her to engage in a more authentic manner with her kids. I mean, she was just able to kind of function and get on with her life in a much more qualitative manner than it was using conventional remedies or pharmaceuticals for chemo. Okay. And then Dennis can give you the technical stuff.
Because we've gone over time, and I'll just say that, the cultivation centers and distribution centers will operate in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Now it's determining where they will operate. And I can speak for myself, but as a board, our concern needs to be what type of operation you'll have, what type of security, and what your operation will look like. I mean, I can see your passion for what you're doing and the type of business you'll be in. But as a board who would look to either give a letter of support or write a letter that in non-opposition, our concern has to be with the specific type of operation, not, we're past that. It's, the Commonwealth will
Fair enough.
allow so many licenses to so many, entities, and they will operate. So I want specifics
Sure. So-
as to the operation in town, the security, background checks, which you've addressed, hours of operation. That's what we need to hear about.
What I'd like to do, Doreen, if it's okay, is I can send you a follow-up document with some of those details.
Absolutely.
We were at a meeting, I called a meeting or requested a meeting through Adam, and we met on the 15th. And of course, I don't believe you guys were invited to that meeting, and I don't think that was a proper procedure. But it was our intent at that meeting, because we had our consultant with us, we had our other partner with us, and it was our intent at that discussion to kind of go over all these things in detail. The meeting just didn't allow for it. The chief obviously expressed opposition, and we didn't feel it was really worth our time to go through at that kind of level of minutia, which is critical, but it just wasn't, we were there open arms to collaborate and say, here's what we're thinking.
Yeah.
We'd like to run it by you, because we believe the best solution, especially with our team, given our scientific focus, is to create a partnership with the municipality that we would operate in, and to collaboratively establish the hours of operation. If you guys have some better ideas than what our experts on security bring to the table, well then let's talk about it and get it out there. But that venue just didn't allow for it. It wasn't the proper time.
And you're more than welcome to put a proposal into writing and submit it to us. We don't have it on our agenda tonight to actually take a position, and certainly we're just hearing this information tonight. We've just been giving out handouts. It's my hope and probably my intention to put it on the agenda for our next meeting and either take no position, take a position, or take a position of non-opposition.
Sure. Great. I'd be happy to put a document together, distribute it to you, and that it provides some more substance around those points.
Great.
All right?
Okay,
Thank you
great.
very much for your time.
Thank you. That's it. Thank you.
Just because I didn't get a chance to speak, Steve, I could like to answer your question after the meeting. I'll hang around if you want to talk afterwards.
Sure.
Thank you.
And next we have, is it Siegel or Seigel? Segal Consulting. Good evening. Please remember to give your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Robert Fireman, and I'm here for Segal Consulting, named after my friend John's daughter. And with me is Raymond White, the retired former Lieutenant Colonel of the Rhode Island State Police, who heads our security, and we thought that would be the most relevant thing to discuss tonight. I mean, we're not going to, in 10 minutes, get into the whole history. Everybody knows that 18 states have now passed some sort of regulated cannabis. Massachusetts put it on the ballot in November, and the DPH of the state is working diligently to try to set rules and regulations. They've done a great job. Segal Consulting has been involved in the industry for around 3 years, having learned what was wrong in California. We got the rights to support a client in Providence, Rhode Island, and over the last year we have built and are operating what we think is the most professional, well-financed, most secure marijuana facility in the United States. With the new rules in Massachusetts, we want to take that expertise and bring it here to Massachusetts so that this does not, it turns out to be a very positive experience. We welcome everyone to come down 40 minutes down to Providence, to 1 Corliss Street, and see what it is, because everybody wants to know what is coming to Massachusetts, and as the cities and towns try to digest what's coming and how is it going to affect us, we like to say that we have a replicable model within 40 minutes of this building, and we welcome everyone to see it and tour it. We're here tonight for a simple purpose. We looked at the property at 28 Millbury and emptied the old Filene's, or originally Shoe.
On McCann.
Yeah, on McCann. And we think the building has tremendous potential as a real estate development. Part of Segal Consulting is a group of people that own and develop industrial buildings and run them in the state of Massachusetts and around the country. As we looked at the property, we felt it was a perfect situation, centrally located in Massachusetts, that would support a cultivation facility if we could get some political support for some tenants that would do that. So basically, Segal is representing some of these Chapter 180 nonprofits that are trying to get applications from the state. And we're here tonight to explore how Auburn feels about allowing the permitted use for simply the cultivation in that building. Our key is that it's regulated and it's secure, it's well-financed, and I think I'd like to turn the speaker over to Ray to explain what is this facility, who's coming and who's going, what kind of traffic. I think depending on how large it gets, we'll employ between 50 and 150 people in the building. The cultivation will only be a small portion of the building. We're going to go to general warehouse use and other uses. We hope to create those jobs. We want to offer them to the people in Auburn first. We want to be a complete tax. We're not going to use the nonprofit for any sort of tax exemption. We'll pay our real estate tax, and we'll try to support local charities and events within the town to enhance knowledge and education about the subject. So, Ray, why don't you give a little, 6 minutes is tough for us, but go ahead.
Thank you, and good evening. Thank you for having me. As Bob said, my name's Raymond White. In my current position, I am the Chief Operating Officer of the Thomas C. Slater Compassion Center in Providence. Prior to that, the Slater Center hired me as a consultant primarily for security for the facility, because that was one of the utmost concerns for the 3 licensed compassion centers in Rhode Island, only 2 of which are open, ours being the largest and I think the most successful in terms of all venues. Safe, secure medicine being provided to patients who are licensed by the state, and safe and a secure work environment for our employees. Prior to this position, I was the Lieutenant Colonel, Deputy Superintendent for the Rhode Island State Police. Now, you may ask me, how did I make that transition from arresting people for possession of cannabis, marijuana, to actually now securing a facility? Well, it was a little bit of a difficult transition because my father's a retired law enforcement. I have multiple law enforcement officers in my family, and I have young children. So there are multiple hurdles to overcome. So I took some time to do the research that you had mentioned earlier, Mr. Simonian, about the benefits of medical cannabis. So as I was doing my research, and at some of the things that were mentioned by the previous speakers, I've also found those online about the young girl named Charlotte, who this apparently that helped very much so with seizures. Concurrently, while I was doing that, I was preparing the security plan for the Slater Center. I can tell you that the Slater Center is probably the most secure facility in the state of the 2. Now, you may say that's not a great bragging right because there's only 2, but I took a lot of care in ensuring that Our employees are subject to pre-employment background checks. There's only one way in and one way out for our 24-hour staff security facility. We have over 70 cameras in the facility. We have swipe card access, which limits individuals' access to areas where they need to be and only need to be, and eliminates access for the employees who don't need to be there. Now, I'm telling you all this about the Rhode Island facility because it's a model facility that's been open since April 19th for 6 months, and I'm proud to say we've had no problems at all. And these same procedures I would implement in the facility here in Auburn if we were successful in being granted permission to use that facility for this purpose. I'll gladly answer any questions. I may have missed a few things because of the time, but again, I'll gladly answer any questions if you have them.
Mr. Grossman?
Yes. You didn't mention whether this would be manufacturing and retail.
It's purely cultivation. There's no retail. So it's purely a grow site. So there won't be any access for the public to come in. And I may add, I had this discussion with the chief. He was kind enough to call me over the weekend because I didn't have the opportunity to meet with him last week. And I certainly share the concerns that he has about the negative effects and impact on his department and on the community in general. And I assured him that if we were successful in obtaining approval, that my goal to work collaboratively with him and his department and state law enforcement, as I have done in the city of Providence and the state of Rhode Island.
Any other board members? I don't recall you mentioning your policy on background checks.
Yes, we do have pre-employment background checks. We have we've actually contracted with a private company that we can go above and beyond, which we do in Rhode Island. So if there's something that precludes an employee based on state law, we can go above and beyond. So if they have financial issues, if they have other issues in their background that we feel should eliminate them from employment at the cultivation site.
Right, by the statute, every person that works there needs to be an agent and licensed. So we go beyond what the state of Massachusetts is going to require. So once they come in, we have lockers. No one can take inside the facility. They have to take off their coats and no bags, and everything is checked before they go into the facility. This will be simply manufacturing. People will come in the morning and go home at night. It is 24/7 for security, and the transportation to other facilities might be 2-3 times a week. So it's not going to be a lot of traffic, a lot of cars. It's going to be very quiet, and unless it's notarized somewhere else, the state doesn't allow you to even put a flower on your card or put a building or do a T-shirt. So, I mean, the state is treating this as a strictly healthcare regulated industry, and we think that's serious and a good point. So there won't be a lot of activity. Security will be top. We'll offer jobs and training for people that are local, and we want to be an asset to the town of Auburn, and anything that is suggested we would entertain. And we thank you for your time tonight.
I have another question for you. Would the transportation be under your authority
Yes.
to another facility?
Well, it would be licensed, the transportation of cannabis.
We would handle the security of the transportation, correct, and it would be under our control.
Okay, it would be under your control from the time it leaves. It potentially would leave your site till it makes it to a distribution center?
That's correct.
Okay.
And Adam, the regulation requires that. It requires that it be weighed, what's leaving, and weighed during and weighed when it arrives. So everything is done. In our facility in Rhode Island, we have a complete inventory management control down to the very gram from when a plant is created to when it's done. Everything is distributed in, sealed, UPC managed. So, and all of that is in a database that's watched and so it's the ultimate in security and regulation.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Simonian?
And what would be transported into the facility to facilitate the cultivation and?
Initially, some seeds.
So, and that's it? No, previously,
No.
no plants, nothing?
Simply
All right, okay.
seeds, germinated, we'll germinate the seeds, and the regulation requires that.
Okay.
So it all starts with little seeds, and nothing else will come out except finished stuff. It will come out prepackaged, secured, sealed, UPC-controlled inventory, and managed. So I don't know the ask. I mean, tonight we came to just get a feeling from the selectmen of what the attitude was. I know we may need some permitted use from the zoning board because it is agriculture, but I think the key is now that the state, unfortunately, 2 weeks ago, set the time frame for applications to be in by the 21st of November. And as our previous told us, they set the tone, and the towns aren't in sync, because, you know, everyone's busy with other important things. So we appreciate the time, and if something can be done so this is a factor, we want to bring the best of breed to Auburn. Thank you.
And like I said, this is all new information to us tonight, and it wouldn't be fair to this board to, you know, to push a vote tonight in either support or non-opposition. And like I said, we will put it on the next agenda for discussion and whether this board wants to take a position.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
If I could just add something too, just to clarify for the board, because internally we have met with both groups. They're both at this point seeking to put in cultivation-only facilities. One is the actual applicant, and we'll be filing an application with the state. The group that's before you now, Segal, will be managing on behalf of the applicant, correct, on behalf of the licensee.
Right, and we
So
can
the
give you the
licensee-
names of 2 of our applicants. But, I mean, the applicant's going to be a tenant in this building. The
So
building's-
2 different structures, just wanted to make sure the board was aware of 2 different structures, and just to clarify, I believe you're looking to put this, a tenant for the cultivation facility on the second floor of this facility, of the building.
That's our initial
And
plan,
the
yes.
person who's looking to purchase the facility is looking to put a different business on the first floor, correct?
And other parts of the second floor, so
Okay.
depending. So,
Just
yeah,
wanted
we're
to-
looking to bring some conventional clients. Our partner in the building, that's what we do. We buy buildings, we subdivide them, and we populate them. We take a building that's empty, we want to put people in there, we want to make it active, we want it paying taxes, and to be a positive impact on the town.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So before I hear from the chief, because it's been mentioned several times that these approvals do come from the Commonwealth, these approvals come from the Department of Public Health, but I do want to disclose at this time, and I'll file the appropriate disclosure with the town clerk's office, that I am an employee with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, employed through the Massachusetts Senate. So approvals do not come from the Senate, they come from the Department of Public Health. But I'll file that disclosure, so I have no interest in these licenses whatsoever. Chief,
Good evening.
good evening.
I will keep my comments brief. The idea of general warehouse use is something I would wholeheartedly support, however, not the marijuana manufacturing component of that. I'm glad to hear that the first proposal of a dispensary has been withdrawn. I'll be honest with you, that was a significant concern of mine. I still have a concern, however, with the manufacturing of marijuana here in Auburn. I'm not saying that I am dead set against the concept itself of somebody that has a valid illness and a valid prescription for marijuana. I just don't think that it's good for the health of Auburn. I don't think it's a good fit for Auburn. I don't know what the board's going to do with respect to a letter. I can tell you that I've already begun to draft a letter myself that I'm going to be sending to DPH, asking them not to issue a license to either one of these 2 entities. This girl, Charlotte, that we've heard about, I received a call from another potential manufacturer on Friday. And it's a former police chief in Massachusetts, and he started to tell me the same story of Charlotte, and I told him that I've heard the story already, and that I wouldn't be supporting his application should he decide to try and go forward. I've said before, and I'll say it again, with the roadways that go through Auburn are what make us successful, but we're also victims of our own success. With Route 12, 20, 395, 290, and the Turnpike, everybody comes here that we don't necessarily want to be here. Just this past week, We sent a gentleman from Fall River to prison for 4 years, and a gentleman from Lynn to prison for 8 years for committing robberies here over the past summer. And I think, I mean, the address has already been, it's made public, it's out there. Everybody's going to know where this facility is. I have concerns about potential smell issues, and I know they're going to say that they're going to use carbon filters, but if they don't work, then where are we once the license is granted? Are we in significant litigation? I don't know the answer to that. I have security concerns. I have concerns of the building being broken into. And I have concerns for the safety of the men and women that work for me, having to go there and be the ones, once this operation is up and running, of being the ones that are going to be charged with protecting this facility. It's not going to really impact any other department in the town, more so than the police department. So I guess the question ultimately is, I think we all want business here in Auburn, but what type of business do you want? Is this something that you think is a good fit for Auburn? And it's my intention to go to the ZBA and ask them not to issue this permit, should they decide to go that route. But, you know, it's up to you whether or not you want to issue a letter of support. Like I said, I think ultimately it comes down to what type of business do you want to see here in Auburn. If you have any other questions, I'd be happy to
Does
answer.
anyone have any questions for the chief? Mr. Simonian?
Can you just clarify one thing?
Sure.
Because I know both parties talked about cultivation, and then you talked about manufacturing, and I don't. When you say manufacturing, what are you talking about? I just
Cultivation, growing.
Oh, all right, okay,
not
all right.
dispensing.
Then we're fine.
Yep. Anything else?
Does anyone have anything else they want to add?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll have it on the agenda for the next meeting. Members will have an opportunity to read the information we have, and we'll make a decision on that.
And if I could, if you don't mind, through the chair, I just want to clarify, both facilities would require a special permit through the ZBA. One of the gentlemen alluded to that, so just want to clarify that. So this would have to go to the ZBA through the special permit process.
Okay. So I'm just going to ask for a very brief, because we want to have an early meeting tonight, if we can have a very brief recess so we can clear the room, and if any members have any specific questions. Can I have a 3-minute recess, please?
Motion for 3.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We're in recess for 3 minutes. We're back in session. Back to the agenda. We have no communications. Under Board of Selectmen items, the October 29th special town meeting warrant articles. We're looking at Article 19, to see if the town meeting will vote to appropriate $20,000, of which $13,612 will be from the October 2011 MEMA snowstorm and $2,174 from the state 2012 flood relief account, and $4214 from general fund revenues to purchase 2 Cirrus closed spreader control systems. And I believe that there was a question for Mr. Coyle on the warranty. Was that correct, Ms. Simonian? Did you have a question on the warranty? Mr.
I
Coyle?
don't remember exactly what the
Okay.
question was now after.
Okay. There was-
Good evening. Several weeks ago, there was a question relative to the I believe, the warranty, if there were any service maintenance contracts.
That's right, okay.
And whether or not there was any software upgrades available for the Cirrus unit. The unit itself does come with a 1-year warranty, and then all the individual cables are warranted for 4 years. It does not, however, come with a service contract beyond that 1 year and 4 years, and there are no software upgrades. So it is just the 1-year warranty on the unit itself and 4 years on the cables.
So, but it's a computerized unit, right?
It's a computerized unit. What happens is inside of our trucks, when the driver or the operator goes out to treat the roadways, there are two main settings that they use to control how much material goes down. So a lot of it is done is manual. So this would computerize it based on the speed of the truck. So the application rate stays consistent. Whether the vehicle slows down, speeds up, it's a constant application rate. So we set it. We are able to get a computerized printout at the end of each storm to see what the application rate was for that individual truck. It'll allow us to better control the amount of material going down on the roads. I spoke to the state snow and ice engineer last year, and he felt that we would see between a 10 and 20% reduction in the amount of material. So there's a benefit to the cost of the material, but there's also an environmental benefit of decreasing the amount of material that we use. So it takes some of the thinking, the constant changing of your augers and spinners on how fast material goes on. If you're stopped and you're tired, you can have a mountain of material just dump right out behind the truck if you forget to turn your settings down. With this system, it shuts down automatically for you. We've equipped the three of the new trucks that we've purchased have come with these Cirrus units installed. So we're looking to retrofit 2 of our trucks with these as well. And we would be able to, once these trucks are in need of replacement, take the equipment out and swap it over to a new truck as well.
So it's not, then it's not ingrained in that vehicle. You can transfer it to any with no
Correct.
issue? All right.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Does anyone else have any questions or comments? Thank you, Mr. Coyle.
Thank you.
Motion to
Is-
recommend?
Mr. Grossman has made a motion to recommend. Is there a second? Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's a unanimous vote.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Coyle, for the explanation. Next item we have is gift acceptances to the town of Auburn for the Save the Green Dome. We have Elaine Matson Hogan, class of 1961, in the amount of $50. Beverly Zanotti Postel, class of 61, in the amount of $50. And Eileen Pickett Alexandrov, in the amount of $220, class of 1973. Is there a motion?
Motion to accept with gratitude.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I have a question. We have in front of us $320 to Save the Green Dome, and it's going to Save the Green Dome, but is there actually an account? Is there actually something that they're putting this money into, that it's being used specifically for that? How does that work?
Through the chair, a couple of things, just from a very basic history of this. The dome that is located on the current high school land was accepted by the school committee back several years ago. And on the school committee vote to accept it, it was accepted with the condition that the school department have no responsibility for the maintenance or upkeep of this, and that the maintenance and upkeep become the responsibility of the Historic Commission. So obviously the Historic Commission doesn't have a budget per se. So there was a small amount of money, about $600, that is in an account that was donated several years ago for the upkeep and maintenance of the dome. And that money is maintained and held in an account that the town holds on behalf of the Historic Commission, which is a town commission. The issue that we've run into now is we had a couple of people who came to us and wanted to work with us to get the dome refinished. And as you can see, it's in tough shape. The problem is we tried a couple of different scenarios for how to get this dome redone, repainted. There's a potential lead paint issue, which we had to go out and get some estimates for what it would cost to have someone come in and do the removal of the lead paint, so we could go forward and have either the sheriff's office or DPW or someone else do this, but it has to be done within the paint abatement laws, and those bids came in around $10,000. Very expensive. So then we looked to DPW to see if they could do some type of a remediation by maybe doing some kind of structure around it and not having to actually do the actual remediation on the lead paint side of it. They're still looking to see if that can be done. It's not as easy as everyone thought it might be. We checked with the sheriff's office, and they'd be thrilled to participate and do some painting, but they won't do it if there's a lead paint issue. They would come in after. So the issue that we're facing now is we want to get this done. DPW is willing to do some of the work through facility management. We have the sheriff's office willing to do some of the work when we're there, but there's a very expensive cost of doing this lead paint removal on this dome. And a couple of people who are not affiliated with the Historic Commission just had an interest in getting this done, and they announced through the paper that they wanted to seek and collect donations to be made to the town, to go into this account that already exists for maintenance funds for the dome. So it is not an employee that's fundraising, it's not a member of the commission that's fundraising, it's an outside resident who's concerned and has gone out to solicit any type of donations, and the donations will be made to the town of Auburn, put into this account, and then that can be used toward the remediation of the paint, and then once we can get that done, we can move forward on the dome. It appeared on the surface to be something that might be a fairly simple process, and when you get into it, it's a several-month-long process with a lot of different components that need to be addressed, including some potential filings with the Conservation Commission.
Thank you.
Anything else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. Thank you. We have no proclamations in your packet. There are applications received over the last year for the Zoning Board of Appeals. All applicants were interviewed and given the opportunity to be interviewed. This board needs to appoint 2 alternates to this board. They are currently just a 5-member board, and if they have an absence, they are a 4-member board with no alternates to step in.
Make a motion that we appoint Megan Roche as an alternate.
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Simonian?
Yeah, I make a motion to appoint.
We're under discussion on the last motion.
When we did the appointments last time, we took them all at once and then.
Well, I just said discussion under this one, so we're under discussion with this one.
Okay, all right. I'm going to raise the same objection that I previously raised then. The last time this applicant came in, I asked her if she had actively watched any of the meetings, if she had any, and she had really not done anything in preparation for, and didn't really have a working knowledge of the zoning board. That was by her own admission, so I don't see how, nothing's changed. I don't see how we can now appoint this person.
Is there any other discussion on this? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Are you opposed?
I am opposed.
Okay, thank you.
I don't understand it.
Is there, Mr. Holstrom, then Mr. Simonian?
We do have the 2 seats open for the alternates, and I would nominate Dennis Natoli to that position.
Is there a second? The chair will second it for discussion. Mr. Holstrom?
I originally had voted against Dennis, and it had nothing to do with his experience or background. At the time, we had 2 new applicants in, and I was looking for some new blood on the board. I think I would turn around and have Dennis Natoli back to help support the board as an alternate, and also to bring new people on to give them the experience and mentor them. And that's why I'm making the nomination for Dennis Natoli for an alternate on the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Did anyone else want to comment on this?
I'm going to second that.
Well, I already seconded it, so.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm
Because we're
sorry.
under
We did.
discussion.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We're under
We're under
discussion.
discussion.
There's no further discussion on the appointments? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. So the board would need to, Sharon just told me that there's a One of them is a 3-year term ending on June 30th, 2016, and one is a 2-year appointment for an alternate ending on June 30th, 2015. Is there a motion to designate Megan Roach to one of those positions?
Motion, we designate Megan Roach for the 3-year position.
Is there a second? Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, so voted. Mr. Simonian is opposed. So is there a motion to appoint Mr. Natoli to the 2-year position, alternate position ending June 30th, 2015?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? No discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, so voted. So you'll notify them, and if they don't accept the appointments, then please bring it back to us and we'll revisit it at our next meeting.
I'd like to raise a point of order. I don't understand why we changed the way we did our appointments. Previously, we've opened it up to all nominations and voted on each nomination, and now we've just taken 2 and voted on those.
Well, actually, the last time we did it was the first time we had done it like that, and I, as chairman, I probably shouldn't have allowed that because it just turned into a lengthy discussion, and it turned into a negative, very negative appointment process. And we have an opportunity to have discussion once a motion and a second is made. Mr. Simonian?
Yeah, can you give me specific examples of why you think it was a negative process?
It just turned very contentious. It was
In what way?
in a way that we were discussing 5 people's nominations, knowing that it were only going to be 2 appointments. And to be honest, and I said it back then, I shouldn't have allowed it as chair. We've taken nominations and voted on them, and people have had an opportunity, whether it, you make an appointment for Mr. John Smith, and then a member seconds it, under discussion, you say, although I appreciate Mr. John Smith's application, I can't support Mr. John Smith because I support Mrs. Mary Smith's application. And there's opportunity for discussion at that time. Mr. Holstrom, then Mr. Simonian.
I think that the way we took the vote tonight is more organized. If you start voting teams of people, then you can have a voting session all night long, because one team doesn't suffice, the next team doesn't suffice, there'd be not enough people to vote for one or the other. I think if we vote individual applicants in, it becomes a more organized election, and I think well serves the town.
And although members, had a first and a second, there wasn't a majority vote on many of them.
The argument that Mr. Holstrom just made is 180 degrees from the argument he made during the last. he was in favor of all applicants. We have 6 people who took the time to put in an application. We just ignored 4 of them. He argued against that just a few weeks ago when we made the initial, and now he's arguing for the opposite. I mean, at the same time, the only person that he's advocated for to be appointed to the board throughout the entire process is a family friend of his. So I mean,
we're not going to make it personal.
I'm not making it personal. It's already personal in the fact that the only person he's advocating for is a friend. He spoke out against 2 sitting members. Only questioned them, didn't question anyone else. I mean, this thing is a sham. It's absolutely ridiculous.
All right, we're not going to make these attacks. It's not a sham.
I'm not making an attack.
It's not a sham. It's the policy of the board.
Point of order.
What's your specific point of order?
It is not a policy of the board at this time.
What's your point of order?
My point of order is that we're still having a discussion about this, and you're closing off the discussion just because you have a difference of opinion with a member of the board.
I'm not closing.
And you said don't make it personal.
Mr. Simonian,
you're making it personal.
No, I'm not making it personal.
Absolutely you are.
I'm not going to allow you to call the appointment process of the board a sham.
Oh, okay, so Mr. Holstrom could sit here and say it was unfair. He accused the 4 of us of being unprofessional.
Excuse me, Mr.
Excuse me.
Simonian, I will object to that.
I have the floor as
Okay.
chairman.
I don't appreciate
I'm not-
your tone. I haven't raised my voice to
I'm
you
not,
once.
I'm not going to allow this back and forth. I'm not going to allow attacks on other members.
I'm not attacking anyone, but you just said you weren't going to allow me to say it was a sham, but you allowed Mr. Holstrom to sit here on 3 separate occasions, say that we were unprofessional, we were unfair, and that he was uncomfortable with the process. He stated that 3 times, and if you don't believe me, you can go back and watch the tapes of the meeting, because I have.
I will.
So my point of order is that this seems to be a one-way thing. Mr. Holstrom is allowed to say whatever he wants on the board, and I'm gavelled down when I state my opinion.
Okay, the point of order would go directly to what we're not following in Robert's Rules of Order. Mr. Holstrom?
You're right, we're not.
Mr. Holstrom, I'll give you one opportunity, and then we're moving on to the next agenda item.
I have no further comment, Chairman, thank you.
Thank you. Under member items, we have Mr. Simonian, a discussion on the policy for board and commission appointment process.
Well, this is exactly what I was just discussing, so I guess I'll just elaborate a little, because I want the residents that elected each of us to be their voice, to understand what this policy that is currently being worked on truly is. It's a violation of your First Amendment rights. It's nothing more than an attempt to censor members of this board. And as I said, the 3 reasons that were given for this policy to even be considered were: this board acted unprofessionally, this board was unfair, and a member of this board was uncomfortable with the way the process went. Again, I will say, when you only question the 2 sitting members of the board, and you don't question anyone who you supposedly know nothing about, and then you call me unprofessional, I take exception to that. And I went back and watched those meetings for the specific reason, not for this purpose, but when we were having gonna have to revisit the license violation for the gold merchant. And I happened to see that on 3 separate occasions, Mr. Holstrom accused this board of being unfair, unprofessional, and he was uncomfortable with the way the process went. I think those are 3 terrible reasons for implementing a policy. I take exception to the fact of being called unprofessional by another member of this board, when I question every single person who came up here for an appointment. I didn't play favorites with anyone. I advocated for several people to be appointed or reappointed, and Mr. Holstrom only advocated for 1 during the entire process.
My name has come up several times. Now I think I'm going to address...
Mr. Holstrom,
Yeah.
you'll have an opportunity to respond. Mr. Simonian has the floor.
The process...
Mr. Holstrom?
Excuse me, I think I have the floor.
No, Mr. Simonian has the floor for another minute, and then you'll have the floor.
So, to continue, I'm just gonna put this out there to the residents. This is a form of censorship. I consider it a violation of your First Amendment rights to limit what this board...
Excuse me, I don't want any comments yelled out from the audience.
To limit what this board can do in questioning anyone who comes before it to be appointed to a position is ludicrous, and that in itself is unprofessional. I just think that, again, the 3 reasons that were given for this policy are absolutely ridiculous. And anyone who supports this policy, I think you're doing the wrong thing. I completely disagree with the entire thing. And I expect an apology for being called unprofessional. I've never done anything on this board that has brought my integrity into question.
Mr. Holstrom?
The first thing that I'd like to say is that we don't have a policy in place for this.
That's correct.
It became discussion, and it was something that the questions were being thrown out individually, and it appeared that there was no process to, and I found it as an uncomfortable process. Chuckle, if you will, Mr. Simonian, and you've done your share of that tonight. There was no policy in place, and because of what we've gone through here, I would like to send it back to the subcommittee with the comments that you have made along with what we had discussed earlier in the meeting, and let the subcommittee come back to us. And if it finds that the subcommittee can't develop a policy that is amendable to the whole board, then I will pull my request to send that to the subcommittee for that policy. Until you come up with a better idea, Mr. Simonian, that's what I'll do, is I'll request the subcommittee review this. If it's not amenable to the board, I will just remove my request for the policy and move on.
The subcommittee continues to discuss this policy and has not yet come up with a written policy. Mr. Simonian, one last comment.
Yeah. I don't have to come up with a better way, because our Constitution has already come up with a better way.
Mr. Simonian,
Listen, democracy is not an easy thing, okay? We're elected officials. And part of that is believing in what you believe within the guidelines of the Constitution and voicing your opinion and having to listen to someone else advocate against what you believe in. But to make a policy that specifically infringes on people's rights, how can you not disagree with it?
I'm going to make one last statement, and we'll move on. The Board of Selectmen operates under the open meeting law and any policies that the board may adopt. The chair is charged with enforcing those policies, as well as charged with enforcing Robert's Rules of Order. And in no disrespect to the Constitution does not come into play at a Board of Selectmen's meeting. It's open meeting law and any policies that the board may adopt. One would hope that out of common courtesy, one member would not violate anyone's rights. But that's how the Board of Selectmen operates. Moving on, we have town manager items. Ms. Jacobson, vote on approval to file and accept a $10,000 Mass Downtown Initiative grant.
Through the chair, yes. I'm respectfully requesting that the board vote to authorize the town manager to submit an application for a $10,000 Mass Downtown Initiative grant, which is an MDI grant. Just to refresh the board's memory, we did apply for this grant last year. We did not get the grant, and we are working with CMRPC. Adam, Bernie, and myself will be meeting with them this week to tweak the grant, take into consideration the reviewers' comments from those at the state that reviewed it last year, and try to incorporate some of their suggestions and submit what we hope will be a stronger application this year. So I'm seeking authorization to file again this grant. And just briefly, this is a grant to provide funds to the town in the amount of $10,000, which are then used to basically subcontract through the CMRPC, which is the regional planning organization, to work with us to develop a plan for the Drury Square area, which technically would be under this grant considered a downtown area, and looking to do signage and wayfinding and other plans for Drury Square to try to revitalize it and give some support to the local businesses.
Sir, Mr. Holstrom?
One question, through the chair. Have the requirements for that grant been changed from year to year? We have a kind of a view of what we'd like to do, but does that have any effect on whatever changes there are in the grant from year to year?
Through the chair, it's my understanding that the requirements for the MDI grant this year are the same as they were last year, which is one of the reasons we thought we would resubmit the grant with some revisions and some strengthening of areas that they look to strengthen. I believe one of the reviewers' comments was that the scope was so broad that they were concerned that we wouldn't be able to accomplish the work within the scope in the given amount of time. So we want to be able to address the fact that we have this massive scope. So I don't believe the regulations have changed, Mr. Holstrom, related to the grant, but we need to make sure our grant is tweaked and revised because it wasn't successful last year. So we don't want to resubmit the exact same grant, but we want the same focus. We still have to be within the parameters of the grant, which is to focus on areas that are downtowns or town centers and to make them economically viable. So those criteria are still in place.
Thank you.
Is there anything else on this? Is there a motion?
Motion to have the town manager give her approval to file and accept a $10,000 Mass Downtown Initiative grant.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. The second item is the fiscal year 14 Community Innovation Challenge Grant Program.
Thank you. You may recognize this. This is a regional grant that the state put out. This is the third fiscal year that they've offered the grant. In the first fiscal year, the town participated with, at that time, I believe we had 13 or 14 communities that went in for a regional stormwater management grant, and we received the grant in the amount of, I think it was close to $320,000 to set up the stormwater management. That was FY12. FY13, last year, we went in again with this group, but it expanded to be 30 communities because the project was so successful. It was a great pilot. So now we have 30 communities in Central Mass that were part of it. We were funded, we applied for $200,000. We were funded for $114,000, and each individual community contributed $2,800 on its own toward the system because we wanted to keep the project going. This would then be the third year. We'd be applying for phase 3 of the stormwater management grant, and there were other computerized programs that we're looking to develop with these 30 communities. I would say that as recently as this morning, I heard about another opportunity for a regional CIC grant. It's not on here tonight, so I'm going to just seek hopefully the support to be a participant in this grant, and then on the 12th I can come in with more information on the other CIC grant. They're both due in November, but I will tell you that this one is with 30 communities, and it's for $200,000. The one I heard about today that I'm waiting to get more information on is to get Gwen on a regional bucket truck, which would be great. It's for the management of branches and trees and allowing our DPW workers to go up and actually trim limbs and take down trees, whether it's in storms or preventative measures. And I believe there are 5 communities that will be going in on that regional grant. Rutland is the lead on that, and they've been very considerate and allowed us to join in with them. So we need to get more details. I'll come back on that one. So there will be 2 CICs. So just to make sure it's clear, tonight's CIC grant would be asking for authorization to participate in the 30 community regional CIC grant for $200,000.
Mr. Simonian.
So we have money in, we have to put money in, or?
We did in FY13. There is no proposal for any of the communities to have to put any type of match in this year. As I said, in the first year, we did not have to pay anything toward it. The second year, we applied for $200,000. If I want to make sure I have my facts right, I believe we were actually authorized and awarded the $200,000. Then there were 9 C cuts from the state mid-year, and that grant got cut to 115 or 114. So all of the communities got together and said, we didn't want to cut our scope in half. It was an important project. We thought the money was there. We had already contracted to go forward with it when it got cut. So we all agreed we split it evenly, not by population, at $2,800. So Mr. Simonian, this third year, the question was asked by every community, are we going to be asked to contribute again? And the overwhelming answer is no. We want to just get the whole thing paid for by this grant. So no local match.
Okay, that's.
Any further discussion? Is there a motion?
Motion to authorize the town manager to participate and accept the grant funds for the CIC grant program.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. Do you have anything else?
Yes. Took me a minute, yes. I think there was one other thing that I wanted to mention. This board had asked me, maybe a couple of months ago when we talked about another grant, getting a Civil War restoration grant at that time, to look into having some kind of just recognition for the Civil War commemoration. And I just wanted to bring the board up to speed on where we are. We're working with one of our local historians, and we will be working with the Veterans Committee and keeping them informed, as well as our Veterans Agent, who was here a short time ago. Our thought was we were trying to get some type of a program together for Veterans Day in the afternoon, where we might have a Civil War costume and period costumes, maybe the cannon. The gentlemen who participate in it are not available. Not only are they not available in November, they're not available until maybe in the spring. So I wanted to come to this board and say we could go forward and do an event. It would be small, but with the board's permission, I'd like to work with the Veterans Committee and try to plan an event for the spring when we actually could get some of these local people, because they're local residents who are involved, and do some type of a Civil War program.
Mr. Simonian.
I would, yeah, whatever, with the historical commission is probably more in tune with, as well, so I would have no problem with.
Okay, thank you. That would just give us a chance to go back and try to get, try to put together a program, give us a little bit more time to do it. Again, they're not available at all this year. They're in demand. Busy year.
Especially for Veterans Day, that doesn't surprise me.
Right, so we will, we'll keep you informed. I appreciate it, and we'll keep working on it.
Thank you.
Is that it?
And through the chair, we can do this after too, but this is the challenge grant that you just voted authorization for. Each board member needs to sign it. If you want to just sign it and then print your name, we can fill in the title and the town of Auburn on the side, so we can do that for you.
No, I'm going to bring up the house trick-or-treating hours.
Yes. And while that's being signed, the chair asked me to just remind everybody that the board had voted recently for trick-or-treating hours, which is coming up this Thursday. And based on the police chief's recommendation, the Board of Selectmen have stated that the trick-or-treating hours for the town of Auburn are between 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. this Thursday, October 31st.
Yes.
And just a reminder to all the drivers out there, there's children in costumes. They're not always in bright costumes. It's hard to see them. Please travel extremely slow and with extreme caution, especially on that night. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Nope, that's fine.
Madam Chair, just a quick question. We do have town meeting tomorrow night, and I didn't see anything posted for a selectmen's meeting. I think we've cleaned up everything
We
tonight.
have.
It's usually pretty much traditional that we meet before the town meeting,
If
but
the-
we have nothing, so we'll
Right.
just go to the town meeting.
Mr. Grossman?
Yes, I understand that the planning board is meeting tomorrow night with regards to the article on Camden Drive, and they're going to convey the information to us before the meeting?
This board,
Through the chair, I would assume that they would be conveying that, oh, I'm sorry.
The board is meeting at 6 PM in the main office conference room to look to finalize the Camden Drive article. If, for whatever reason, they do not finalize it, I expect that they will ask as petitioner to pull the article. If I remember correctly, when I was here last discussing this, the board took the action of deferring to the petitioner. So I don't know that there's any action that the board would have to take. It would just be a matter of whether or not the moderator would look to have a motion or whether he would just move on from it as it had been withdrawn.
and it would be the planning board who would withdraw the article?
That is correct, as they are the petitioner on road articles from subdivisions.
Thank you.
Through the chair, if I could also add that the DPW director and Mr. Bernie have been working with the gentleman to get this done, as well as the gentleman's attorney, and it's my understanding that as of this afternoon, an agreement was being drawn up that will be brought to the planning board tomorrow night.
Correct.
Which
We
would
are,
be likely providing the funding that would be available to make sure that all the conditions were met.
correct.
And it's my understanding the Conservation Commission is meeting as well, because there's...
They're meeting at 6:15. They have an order of conditions that Mr. Bosclair should have had discharged. My understanding is that it's a few minor issues on the plan that need to be done in order to clear up their portion of it, but I also don't want to speak for the chair of the Conservation Commission.
Well, I'll just state again, as I had stated at the last meeting, certainly it's my hope that this board develop a better policy before things are presented to us to schedule a street layout hearing, because I've followed those planning board meetings, and it was rather disappointing to see the applicant come before the planning board and not be prepared, and then have the planning board taking a vote the night of town meeting
I think,
on this item.
I think to your point, Madam Chair, that this board actually has a very good policy. It flows very well. The planning board made some moves to try and expedite the process and help this applicant. So I think that this is hopefully the exception to the rule. I think in years past, the street acceptance policy has worked very well, and generally applicants are very good about having everything tied up in a nice little bow by the time they get to stand here in front of you. So, I mean, I'd be happy to discuss it with you if you want to look
it would be
at
our hope
modifying
that-
the policy.
Yeah.
But in general, I think the framework, it works very well.
But it's always that one exception to the rule that just creates so many headaches, as this case
That is correct.
has turned out to be. Thank you. Next item is public comment. Is there any additional public comment? Please give your name and address for the record.
Joe Hamill. For somebody who's complaining about his First Amendment rights,
Mr. Hamel, we're not going to make any personal attacks
He's-
on board members.
no, I'm speaking to the attack that he made on Mr. Holstrom.
You can go through the chair. Please don't address.
Madam Chairman, through you, for somebody who is speaking about their First Amendment rights, it appears that a member of the board is fine with trampling on everybody else's except his own.
Thank you, Mr. Hamel.
Question.
We have the minutes.
I have a question for Mr. Hamill. If you're going to
Through the
get
chair.
Through the chair, if you're going to get up there and make accusations, then the least you could do is give specific examples. And
We're not,
just-
We're not going there.
I'm done.
Exactly.
Under
Be
pub-
honest.
Do we have the minutes of, excuse me, no comments from the audience, please. I don't want any audience members yelling out. We have the minutes of March 11th, 2013. Are there any corrections or omissions? Mr.
I don't
Simone?
have a correction. I just have a question. When we have minutes that have large presentations that are part of them,
Mm-hmm.
is there anything that allows us to just put like one page in there saying that the presentation is on file? Because I know that you print out a lot of copies for just, I mean, it's like 6 or 7 pages per, that we could probably not
At the end
have
of the
to.
minutes, it does refer to what is a presentation.
So,
And as long as we keep, oh, it does?
yeah, they're always listed
The open
what's,
meeting law.
with the open meeting law, what the documents were
And
part
it
of
has
that.
to be included?
It has to be
in the-
included.
oh, all right.
Well, this has, for the file, in Sharon's minutes, it lists the documents that are included. If board members wish to just have the minutes listed with the documents left out and know that they're available in the office for review, we can eliminate any presentations, especially the appointments, you know, because we've looked at applications for appointments several times. We've looked at liquor license applications that are hundreds of pages. Mr. Simonian?
Yeah, I don't necessarily mind if there, you know, it still says in there that this presentation was part of it, but if we can, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, they have to be.
if-
Instead of copying it.
How long we have to keep a copy somewhere, but obviously you have the copy because you printed it.
Oh,
so-
she has to keep
right,
it on
exactly.
file
So
forever.
if we could just say that, you know, we have the copy if someone wants to reference it, we could save ourselves a lot of.
So I guess what we're looking for, Sharon, are just your actual minutes, and as long as it's stated at the end that the documents that are part of the minutes, if members look and say, wasn't there a report from whatever, you know, that was part of it, that doesn't seem to be here, then we can address that. So if there are no other questions or comments, the chair will accept them as written.
So moved.
All those in favor, any opposed, so voted. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion adjourned.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor, any
Aye.
opposed, so voted.
Thank you. Good night.
We are adjourned.